first one?
I'm at 9:15, so I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm just early. I don't know what's on the agenda. This isn't driving you nuts, is it?
Is that okay to put up?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So was Jean just stopping by to say hi yesterday?
She was paying her taxes, so she stopped in to say hey.
And her husband passed away, didn't he?
He did.
Just this last year?
It hasn't been a year yet, but yeah, it's been rough on her.
Oh, Barbara.
Is that?
Jean Miranda.
No.
Yeah.
It's her heart.
Yeah. Yeah, she was in yesterday.
He didn't say anything. Hairdos that, you know, the kids wear. Yep. Hi. Look pretty in yellow. Thank you.
We're live.
make sure I remember. Candace has something that she needs to share.
Okay.
I can't always see down there, and
Because I block it.
my memory's not great.
Did you write it on your cheat sheet?
Oh. Do that. Bruce is here, I'm assuming?
He's here. He just walked out.
Your hair's not spiked up today.
Oh, yeah? I didn't drive my convertible.
Oh, you didn't?
Wow. Somebody did.
I figured, I'll break the mold today. Oops, I thought Shannon was in here already.
Nope, there she is.
Okay.
Very good. It's July 27th. Please rise and join us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Have we had an opportunity to review the consent agenda?
Yes.
Yes, so moved.
Second.
And yes.
Have you had an opportunity
Yeah,
to review the requisitions?
I'm fine with it.
Me too.
And yes.
I have a few add-ons. The first is actually it's not an add-on, it was on the consent agenda, but we took it off to read it separately. Have a resolution to enter into contract with Voorhees, Sloan, Welsh, and Crossland Architects for the Warren County Court expansion project on behalf of Facilities Management.
So this is the continuation of the RFQ process. I believe back in June, you authorized Trevor to begin negotiations with Voorhees Sloan. He's done that. The contract that's presented today is for $50,000. Our hope is, or the plan is to bring you a few options on that Voorhees has looked at to get your direction, probably within the next couple weeks of either location, renovation. He's come up with, I've seen the preliminary
For
stuff.
which project?
For the county court project. This is either the county
Because
court.
we're going to have more space there because the sheriff's moving out.
Right, so what we put out for RFQ for Criteria Architect was to either look at renovation, expansion of the current common police court, or just in general to look at what other options could be out there. And he's come up with a few that we would like to present to you in a few weeks to get which direction you want to go in. So this is for $50,000. It's the Criteria Architect. From whichever direction you proceed in, then we will put out an RFP for a design builder.
Because it's also an open question relative to what do we do with
Exactly.
the old jail, things we've talked about in the past.
That's
Day
correct.
reporting, nothing, spillover, all the options.
Right.
What do we do?
Right. We have to keep in mind, when we talk about a renovation project, the current operation has to continue. So, those are all things we have to consider when we're talking about actually, any type of renovation in that building for county court. The jail and those kind of things for, as you mentioned, day reporting, those would be items that would come after this project. Or, they could run concurrently as well, but we're just talking about the front end operations of county court. So this
So
is the
moved.
contract.
Second.
And yes.
Have a resolution to authorize the Warren County Sheriff's Office to initiate negotiations for a medical services contract for the jail with Vital Core Health Strategies pursuant to the request for proposals.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
And I have a resolution to approve and authorize the county administrator to enter into an agreement with either Energy or IGS Energy for electric generation to various facilities within the Water and Sewer Department, various facilities within the Warren County Park District, and various facilities within the engineer's office and telecommunications.
So this is the
areas.
electric aggregation that we go out for bid for. The Water and Sewer Department is in the, this is to actually put together, I believe, the specifications, is that correct?
No, this is, we've received,
Oh,
these
we
are
have received
pursuant to the proposals,
Okay.
the consultant has reviewed them, the Water and Sewer Office has reviewed them, and they've narrowed it down to two. The reason why they have to do the resolution in advance is because once they choose one, you only have like 2 days to enter into the agreement that's required. It's
And I
very
believe the
time-sensitive.
rates change like very quickly.
Yeah.
So they lock it in at the lowest rate.
And it
that they can
changes,
get.
I mean, it could change immediately, which is, this
So
is the
that's why
same
we're,
way you did
that's
it
why
last
we're
time.
opening it up to two, because normally we don't.
That's
We don't,
correct.
we name a entity.
That's
An entity, not two.
Yes.
Yes, so moved.
Second.
Yes.
That's all the add-ons I have right now.
Very good. First on our agenda is a resolution to determine to proceed with the renewal of the elderly services tax levy.
Yeah, I have received the certificate of estimated property tax revenue from the county auditor. So now, the next step is for you to determine to proceed. And once you have approved this resolution, I will file certified copies of everything with the Board of Elections, which will certify it to the ballot in November.
Yeah, so we have, we're under a timeline here, and I think the discussion was that we would, or my understanding of where we were last week was leaning towards approving the renewal levy to go back on the ballot, but that we would be considering a holiday for a period of time yet to be determined on a temporary basis. Is that your?
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay.
That is correct.
So we need to approve the renewal in order for it to get on the ballot, but it doesn't impact the decisions that we'll make in the future about a temporary holiday.
Correct.
So I'm okay, so moved.
Second.
And yes.
And you're a little bit early for your 9:15.
We do have a couple things I will just mention. Property taxes are due tomorrow. I do know that Barney wanted me to remind you of that, or remind the public of that, anybody that's listening. Property taxes are due tomorrow. I believe Candace has something that she would like to update you on, that she's been working on.
Push the button, unmute it.
Okay, so Stand to Serve is the organization that does the 9/11 Remembrance Ceremony each year. So Robin Kiley, who kind of oversees that organization, she's working right now with the Sheriff's Office and the Veteran Services to get that ceremony planned. So this year, it is the 20th anniversary, and it's also taking place on a Saturday. So they're kind of doing two different things that are both going to happen on location here. So I wanted to make sure that you were aware if you had any questions or if you wanted any more details. So the first thing they're talking about doing is something on Friday evening, which would be like a candlelight ceremony. And then they're going to it'll probably wrap up sometime after 8 p.m., just depending on like the sunlight and all that. And then the second thing they're talking about doing is a solemn remembrance on Saturday morning, where they're going to be doing like the posting of the honor guard. So she's working with Sheriff's Office, Veteran Services, and then the Fire Chiefs Association. And then most likely we're also going to have a proclamation too from your office as well. So if there's any other details that you'd like, or if you have any questions or concerns or anything, I can get more
Is it
information.
planned at the memorial?
Yes. Mhm.
Great. She does a really nice job. She just took it on herself to do this several years ago, and she does a really great job.
Is it Dan Kiley's? What?
I don't know.
PC?
I don't know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll mention one other thing, and just so that you can be thinking about it after we finish up with some of our work sessions. We've been approached, as you may know, the procurement policy for the county requires our departments between $1,000 and $50,000 to obtain 3 price quotes. And many times over the years, I'll get departments say, since that's a county policy, can we increase that threshold maybe to $3,000 or $5,000? It kind of streamlines the process on some of those smaller purchases. So I just recently received a request from the Water and Sewer Department, who does have, smaller purchases. They might be right at the $1,000, $1,500 mark that, getting 3 price quotes for such small things can kind of maybe not delay whatever it is they're working on, but sometimes the process could. So I want to discuss with the commissioners potentially, increasing it to $3,000 or $5,000, which I don't think would add, I think it would streamline the process a little bit more on some of those smaller purchases. I certainly wouldn't go above $5,000 as the threshold, but 3 to 5 would be my recommendation, unless the board has concerns about increasing that threshold. And once again, that's the county's threshold. The state statute doesn't address, we'll still have to have purchase orders. Anything over 1,000 is statutory, but we would not require price quotes.
Right, I mean, the rationale for that is just, somebody in purchasing in whatever department could just feed their high school buddy.
Sure.
Hey,
Correct.
here's a bunch of $1,500 orders, and it's really should be $500 orders.
Exactly. So I would not go above, as I said, that 3,000 to 5,000. I think you should require price quotes for anything that's above that.
But we could do like 2,500 and see how that
You
goes
could,
for a while.
absolutely, absolutely.
It gives them a little wiggle room, because it's not I don't think it's unreasonable to.
No, I
request,
just
so.
think in some of, like the water department, the water side of it now has an administrative person, but the sewer side does not have an administrative person. So you have the actual repair workers obtaining the price quotes and doing those kind of things. So, I think on some of those, it would help that. But 2,500 certainly is, I think that's doable. If that's something the board would like to entertain.
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, well, we'll come back with modifying the procurement policy to increase the limit to $2,500 for 3 price quotes.
Very good. And Suzanne, good morning.
Good morning. This public hearing is to declare our intentions for an extra allocation of community development block grant funds. These funds have been made available to us from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. We advertised this public hearing in the newspaper on Sunday, July 18th, and that initiated a 5-day comment period. So if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and read the list of our intentions, and these projects are related to the COVID pandemic. The county has decided to allocate $241,983 to Shared Harvest Food Bank, $22,548 to the Lebanon Food Pantry for a refrigeration project, $270,574 to Family Promise of Warren County, formerly known as Interfaith Hospitality Network, for a facility, $22,548,000 to Family Promise for operating, $63,134 to Meals on Wheels parking lot project, $106,426 to the Child Advocacy Center, and $67,643 to the Abuse and Rape Crisis Shelter. The next step in this, there are some papers in your packet that will need to be signed today, and then I will submit it to HUD for their approval. So if there are no further comments from the public, I will proceed with that plan.
We will entertain any comments from the public. Discussion from the board.
I think this is a good, I mean, you know, there was a lot of requests, limited resources. I think this is a good way to move forward, so thank you for your work on that.
Yeah, I'm all right with it.
And yes,
Okay, thank you.
Would you like me to read the resolution?
sure.
Have a resolution to approve and sign the submission of SF 424 assurances and certifications as they relate to the Warren County 2019-2023 Consolidated Plan and Fiscal Year 2019 CDBG-CV COVID-19 Annual Action Plan Amendment Number 2.
So moved?
Second.
And yes.
Thank you.
Somebody took my pen. Had a good one here.
Somebody stole it. Your next agenda item is not a public hearing, and technically, it did not even need to have an agenda time, but because it is an annexation, it is an uncontested annexation, I went ahead and scheduled it for your discussion. I do know that there are representatives
So the
here
parties
from
are here.
South Lebanon, and I believe the agent is here. What I'm trying to say is, I don't believe you have to wait till 9:30 if you want to proceed early.
Sure.
Since it seems like all the parties are here, we will consider a type 2 annexation petition of Richard Palio, agent, to annex just over 10 acres to the village of South Lebanon. This is the St. Philip's Catholic Church property. So who's going to tell us about that, or what's going on?
Petition was filed, township would be Hamilton Township. It's my understanding that they did not file a resolution, objection to the annexation, and according to state law, that is deemed a consent. Therefore, you are required to approve the annexation petition on your next agenda, which is today. So, discuss, it's what I call an annexation by default, so you just need to approve it.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second?
And yes? Jerry, how things going? Mhm. Mayor, morning.
Morning.
Andrew Meyer, he's our new solicitor.
Morning.
Smith Meyer with in Springbrook.
Very good.
He's done a great job with us.
Mayor, you want to give us an update? What's going on since we got you here? We got time. You came all the way up here. Thought I'd give you the floor. Let's see what's going on.
Disrespectful if you don't show up. Don't ever think you can consider.
Dave Gully's favorite line, the world is run by those who show up.
Right, yeah, that's for sure. That's why I was here, just in case. No, the things are going well for us, you know, hopefully, I think our biggest thing is like streets, you know, the businesses are going well. McDonald's opened up and they're exceeding Kings Island's numbers. And the reason we know those for a fact is the guy who owns South Lebanon owns King's Mill. So he told us he wanted all the business, so he's getting it. Actually, so far, so good. You know, with the Archdiocese bringing in, that'll bring in some homes that are probably in the $450,000 range, or so they'll exceed whatever the school district is, so they'll have enough revenue to pay for the schools, which is good there. And the city building's moving. We're moving forward with the upstairs and to bring the police department, the sheriff upstairs into the new building. And our Veterans Memorial, things like that is kicked off, and we've hired, hopefully, 5 new people, right? Yeah, hopefully. So we didn't take anybody from the county, so that's a good news. No, and I want to thank you for the agreement, also for the long-term water agreement. I think that helps both of us and settles a lot of old stuff, so thank you very much for your time.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. That's it. All right, very good. I have another meeting. I am going to run out. I think our last agenda item is a work session with Tammy on benefits folks. I'm going to run out to that meeting. But
Take care.
Thanks, Dave.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing?
So I have, I wanted to bring to your attention, I have a denial of a claim by United Healthcare, and it's coming to the board for a decision on whether there's coverage to be provided there or not. On a broader level, before I get into that particular claim, you know, these things arise from time to time, and wondering how you would like me to pursue these in the future, whether you want to handle them on a case-by-case basis, or if you want to plan revision. So some things that I'm talking about is it's complications that occur from non-covered procedures. So it can include bleeding, inflammation, reaction, infection, pain, blockage, fluid, nerve damage. And it can be caused from procedures such as LASIK, dental implants, surgical weight loss procedures, and cosmetic procedures. In the past, we have, back in 2004, we covered gastric bypass. We also cover complications to gastric bypass, which is $10,000 that we cap it at. So I just want to get some direction on the broad level, and then also to the claim that's currently up for review for your decision.
Tammy's been traveling too, I think.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I think it's
It's allergies,
yeah.
You need a glass of water or something?
No, I'm fine. I'm vaccinated too, so, but I'm struggling with just coming back to the climate. So anyway,
She's been in the warm south climate.
yeah, and I was frozen to death with the air conditioning coming home.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sorry, but anyway, so I want to get your guidance on a broader level on how we want to handle these things as they come up in the future. So whether you want to solely for when there's a situation that is typically not a covered procedure and complications arise from that particular non-covered procedure, where it is beneficial to both the member to have a correction made and also beneficial to the plan to have that correction made. So, and it would be for the things that, the complications that I mentioned and the procedures that I had mentioned. So whether you want to act on those on an individual basis and hear each one, like this one today, or if you want to incorporate some plan language to cover those situations.
Which we did incorporate plan language on the gastric bypass specifically.
Right.
And it has a limit.
It's gastric bypass or surgical weight loss procedures, how it's
Right,
referred to in the
right.
plan. It is, the way it is, in 2004, there was a lot of complications that were arising from surgical weight loss procedures. Gastric or surgical weight loss procedures in our plan is currently listed as an exclusion, but is covered in the event that certain criteria is met. So it could be a BMI, attempts of other weight loss measures. So there's a limit of $10,000 that's placed on coverage of that procedure, and also $10,000 should there be a complication from that procedure. So that is the only, it's listed as an exclusion, but there is coverage that's provided there. So,
But say later on down the road from a weight loss procedure, the person develops pancreatitis or something like, way later, like that would be covered under our medical plan, subject to deductible. So it's the procedure itself, correction, whatever, that we capped, right?
It's
Like complications from that procedure.
well, the procedure itself
Is
is
covered.
capped. It's,
Oh, okay.
it's listed as exclusion, but covered if criteria is met. So medical criteria, so, provider has to send documentation and whatnot.
Right, so it's the difference between getting a nose job for cosmetic purposes or
Deviated
a
septum.
deviated septum
Right.
that we make the determination. So I guess I would say, I hear what you're saying is you want us to make a philosophical conclusion about this, but it sounds to me that the philosophical conclusion, we've landed at a decent place already, but there may be some specific instances that don't meet the criteria from the insurance company that are worth us, evaluating. And so, it's, if somebody were to, choose to get, a nose job for cosmetic reasons, but then ends up in complications, we don't want them to, we want them to be fixed and healthy.
Right.
But I don't know how to make that determination outside of the specific circumstances.
Right, it's, it could be handled either way individually. As I think the last one that we did was in 2017 that the board did. And it was an experimental test, due to a cancer diagnosis. That was, not covered by the plan. UnitedHealthcare can be really boilerplate on things, and so that's why, these denials happen sometimes when it's not real clear. But for instance, for the nose, somebody has a nose job, and then there's bleeding, there's inflammation, there's swelling, and to go ahead and get that fixed, not pay for the procedure if it's cosmetic, not paying for the procedure itself, but if complications arise after that, to take care of those the complications in order to prevent,
An extraordinary loss that we would,
Yeah.
or an extraordinary expense that we would cover even later on down the road.
Right. Yeah, it's, and the thing of it is as this would be a benefit exception, and as these things happen, these overrides and payment made is not subject to our stop-loss reimbursement. So, it might be that if, on a case-by-case basis or on the, broad level, whatever the board's decision is on that, it might be advisable to think
Yeah.
about placing a cap, such as gastric bypass
I
has.
totally hear you. But what I'm saying is, there's nothing that you're telling me right now, based on the policy, that is compelling me to change the policy. But there may be, in the specific instance, an exception that I would be willing to make. And so, it seems like our policy is sound. If the last time we've been faced with this issue was 4 years ago, I don't know why the board wouldn't want to be the authority to make that determination of providing an exception. But I guess I'm just saying, it sounds to me like the policy is fine, but you're bringing us something that I might be willing to make an exception. And what I don't know is if this specific exception then would compel me to change the policy. So if you're asking me first to make a determination, on whether or not our policy needs to be changed, I don't see any reason that our policy needs to be changed.
So I'm hearing you want us, you would like to hear this specific
Yes.
instance of what the issue is, that we have the request for acceptance or approval of this particular
'Cause that may-
circumstance.
It may very well show to me that there is something wrong in the policy that needs to be adjusted, but I'm having a hard time understanding.
Okay, I mean, I think in a broad sense, we can share the scenario that we've been presented without violating anybody's HIPAA,
Why don't you do that?
HIPAA rights. I mean, you know, in a broad scenario, we're not gonna share, you know,
Okay.
but this is the scenario that has brought us to the request for coverage.
Okay, go ahead and do that. Show
Okay,
us what you can.
so the current situation is we have a member, back in October of 2020, and they were having complications from a cosmetic procedure. The complications were inflammation, pain, reaction, mechanical reaction, and that warranted correction. They moved forward with correction, and the claim was submitted to United Healthcare and was denied. And then it went to United Healthcare on an appeal level, which remained denied. The cost for the procedure was $10,760. So upon that United Healthcare appeal denial, it then comes to the board on a second level of appeal for coverage. So,
Now, and keep in mind, I think whatever the cosmetic procedure wasn't like recent.
no,
You know, this has been after many
yeah,
years.
after many years, yeah.
That the issue arose. So it's not like with with surgical weight loss that, you know, you have it right away, or sometimes you have it
So
right
is
away.
the timing of this, Tiffany, is the timing of this significant to your feelings about this? In other words, it seems to me that the further out we get, there is, it's not, my question would be, well, maybe it's not really all that related, or maybe there's other factors that are involved. And the further the time span is between the procedure that was not covered and the complications, it seems to me that to me, would favor coverage for it, because I think there's so many other causative factors that could be involved in this, that it's hard for me to determine, or anybody to determine, whether it's really procedure-related or not. It seems to me if you've got a complication on a non-covered procedure, if it's immediate, okay, you wouldn't cover it. But if it happens years later, I don't know.
I agree, and I mean, I actually tend to think that, you know, I look at it from what could the effects on the plan be, especially in this particular case, after several years, you know, and to your point, was it actually caused by the cosmetic procedure or something else going on? That's really kind of hard to.
So the longer the period of time,
Yep.
I mean, you know, I guess that there are certain cosmetic procedures where something happens and you know it's that thing, but you don't know what caused that thing necessarily. There could be other things going on with this person that cause it, that we would want to cover. And then ultimately, my concern is, are we doing something where we change the policy on this? We have to be consistent about this. We can't just be willy-nilly, I suppose, in just making a case-by-case analysis that doesn't have some consistency or precedential value. But then the question is, are we doing something that changes the economics of our plan and what we have at risk, and as you say, or stop, you know, loss coverage? So what are the implications with that if we change this, we say, no, we're going to cover this? Are there any implications that are adverse to us?
On this particular, to cover on a case-by-case scenario, on this one, what would be required to handle it that way, there's just different ways to handle it, and to hear these individually would require a benefit exception. So, and when a benefit exception is made, stepping outside of the plan or the way that United Healthcare processes claims, and it would not be subject to stop-loss reimbursement. This happened in 2020. there's no, stop loss is a moot point, so
Right.
it wouldn't even matter. That would be the, that would be the,
So my tendency is to want to cover people's losses or somebody's health conditions that occur significantly later than the procedure. And, the whole part of having insurance like this is we pool the risk for everybody. Now, I agree that if somebody chooses to do something that's not covered, they know that when they enter into doing the procedure. But do they accept the risk knowingly that maybe 5 years from now, I might have a complication or something else? I really don't think they think about that. And I think that my feeling is I'm trying to put myself in the position of being the person that's done this. I accept that I'm gonna do this cosmetic procedure and not covered. I accept that things that happen immediately after that, problems, complications, I gotta pay for it. But 5 years from now, I'm kind of thinking, now who knows what's up? So my tendency is to want to cover the thing. If it's a lengthy period of time from the procedure that was not covered to the time there was the complication.
Which is fine. I mean, we can bring them back on a case by case. We will, obviously we know for consistency purposes, prior.
Does that cause a problem, Bruce, that you're aware of, doing it that way? Is there any reason
No,
to?
as long as you're consistent.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I don't know, so, Shannon, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you philosophically that my inclination is to want to favor the member to provide actual coverage because it is a pooled product, as you say. What I guess the question would be beyond this individual instance is now opening up that how is the risk being assessed on the plan itself? You probably have no idea how many members have opted would fall into those exceptions and never had complications because they're not showing up as claims.
right.
So you really don't know what kind of exposure there is. And what happens if we have other members who say, well, I learned that you've made this exception now, this happened to me in 2018, and I was denied, I'd like to fall into this exception too. I mean, I'm for more coverage than less coverage. I'm for consistency of it. I don't know how you make this a permanent exception based on the analysis that Tom is saying, like so many years, so many months from the procedure. Like I don't know I don't know when the original procedure was done with this particular case. Like, don't even know if that falls into the exception that we're willing to accept. Has it been 5 months or 5 years or 15 years? Like, I don't know. So I can't make a determination based on that because I don't know what you're talking about.
So so one thing in health insurance claims, you have a year to file a claim for it to be either covered or not covered, to be processed, I'll say. A claim could have been filed last June, or a claim from last June could have been filed within, this preceding 12 months and still would have been processed. So, if that's your concern about, going back, I would say that you put the same time limit. We are going to consider, or we would consider if appeals are made, claims that are not more than 12 months old, if that makes sense. So it's kind of a rolling 12 months in how they process claims.
Right. Yeah, UnitedHealthcare sometimes holds their network providers to a shorter time span,
Okay.
but our plan does have a year timely filing rule.
Right.
This particular claim is in retro. Most of the time, it's seeking approval that's going to be denied by
That's
UnitedHealthcare.
delayed,
So, yeah.
right.
So that would be a way to, to capture that is
12 months
within that
from when
12-month
the appeal
period.
was filed,
Yeah.
or the claim was filed.
What happened in '04? Did we policy?
Yes, it is in the health insurance, it's in our plan document.
So the employees can see that.
Yes. Yes.
And is the member suggesting that the complication is not indeed a complication, there's something else going on?
I believe that it's a combination of both things, but just other underlying health conditions that are being affected. And then the particular issues with the, the inflammation and the pain specific to that.
I don't know what we're deciding here. Are we deciding to cover this particular member? Is that the decision?
Yes,
That's the
that's the
question.
decision,
Yes.
is this particular claim being covered?
How long ago was the complication? That just occurred last October, is that right?
Yes.
And the procedure that was the elective procedure that was not covered, when did that occur?
It was years ago.
I don't even know the exact date.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago, years
Oh,
and
yeah,
years
I would
ago.
say 10 to 15 years ago, maybe,
And the amount of money we're talking about?
is $10,760.
Okay, well, I would tend to favor give grant
Yeah.
coverage in this case.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Well, I will complete a benefit exception form, and I will put it in for next week's with a resolution.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tammy. How are our Weight Watcher members doing?
Good.
Yeah.
It's increasing.
Martin is our star member.
I know.
Hundreds of pounds being lost.
That's awesome.
He's gonna become our spokesperson.
Spokesmodel. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anything else?
I do not have anything else.
Okay, since this is a public meeting and apparently I'm chairing it. Is anybody else in the public, are we online still?
We're
Yes,
just-
you
it's a
are.
Facebook
Okay,
Live.
Yeah.
They can't, they can't.
YouTube, you have your own YouTube channel.
All right, so anybody out there that wants to speak up or
They have to be
hold your
here.
peace, you gotta be here, right, yeah. So, nobody else has anything to say to the commission today?
I do.
You do? Oh, good.
In light of what you just said,
Yes.
speak up.
All right.
Last week, and maybe I did or didn't share this with Tiffany or Mark, there were complaints that you, especially Mr. Grossman, were leaning back in your chair so no one could hear you.
Oh, okay.
So speaking up is very important, and I think it was on both, but certainly the YouTube broadcast.
All right, so we've got, these mics are, you gotta be right next to them to hear us?
They are different, and you couldn't hear me either because I didn't have my mic on, so today I was,
Is the red? means
yes,
it's
for
on.
you it is, for you it is, yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay. So so to know when we are too far away, is there some distance where we should be to be heard?
That's a technical question.
I don't
Well,
know,
But you see, I'm not sure where I have to be heard.
probably right there is
But I
good.
would say where you're at right now, you can hear from the speakers much better. When you do lean back, I can hear you because I'm in the room, but with you leaning forward like that, it's coming across the speakers much more easy for me to hear. So
Okay, I know that every time I talk that people want to listen to me, so I will make, I will make an effort to make sure
Well, I mean,
that-
and I do think if you do want to sit more back, you could just move your microphone.
I had no
you know?
idea, though, that this was an issue.
Yeah,
So I apologize to the people in the public that complained that they couldn't hear me, and I really am flattered by the fact that they wanted to hear me. So I will make an effort to make sure that I either carry this thing with me.
we'll get you a
Where do I
little
go?
button mic, Tom. We'll
Yeah,
get you a little button
really.
mic,
So, okay, we'll make sure that we.
pin it on your shirt.
Well, this is the first time I've ever heard this complaint about me. Normally, it's I need to speak super softly or something like that.
I've never heard you be loud.
Never,
Ever.
of course. Thank you.
We're on it.
Yep.
Okay, hearing nobody, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And yes, thank you.
Yeah, when mine is red, I'm